Welcome back to Financial Therapy. It's not just about the money. I'm personal financial planner, columnist, and financial therapist Rick Kahler. Research tells us that 90% of all financial decisions are made emotionally, not logically. For nearly 4 decades, I've been helping people make better money decisions. So what makes my financial worldview different from most financial experts? I blend the nuts and bolts of financial advice with the emotions that drive making them. Good money decisions are not just about the money. So let's get started with today's episode. Welcome back to another edition, and I'm delighted again to have Joan Ryan with me, who is a expert on the Enneagram. We're talking about the Enneagram, throwing in a little bit of IFS, and how all of the types or patterns do money. And we thought it would be interesting this time to talk about who pays the bill. I've threatened to write a book on this.
I think it would be great. I'd love to read it.
It just brings in so much on how we do money and the psychology of money. So we thought we'd take a scenario of we have 9 people out for dinner, and each one of them is a different pattern of the Enneagram. And there's been no previous decision about who's going to pay the bill. And we'll go from there. So who would you like?
Don't forget, they forgot to ask the server to split the check. And at this point, it would be impossible. Modern technology makes it so easy now. What I think of as we talk about this, Rick, is when we used to do Enneagram trainings in person, there would always be kind of a relaxed night with a lot of fun and a lot of silliness. And you'd see scenarios like this, one of each type. I remember one of, how does each type settle themselves on an airplane? And so on. How does each type do? And so we'll do it with paying the bill for the check. So let me set the frame again with the material that I'm working with, which is the motivations. So the body types are primarily motivated towards agency or embodied empowerment. The heart types, the body types 8, 9, 1. The heart types 2, 3, 4 are motivated primarily by the bonding instinct. And the head types 5, 6, 7 are motivated primarily looking for certainty, because certainty in this quadrant equals safety. So we've got that frame. And I think we could just go right around the table. So if we started with, I have to start in a triad. So let's start with the 2. And go from there. Does that work?
That works.
Okay, so the bill is presented for the sake of making it fun. It's a big bill, and there was a lot of spending, and there was a lot of variation around the table of who ordered what, because that's a very common. I didn't have a drink. You had coffee. You had dessert. But my entree was all that nonsense. My 9-ness just gets hysterically upset with this. But I'll try to try to temper it. Yeah. So the bill comes, and the 2, I'm going to say, focusing on preserving the relationships that they've built with everybody else at the table, I'm going to guess, unless the 2 is an accountant, says, okay, who's going to take charge of splitting this up and collecting? My guess is that person, again, unless they are really, the money person, is going to not want to be in that hot seat, because whoever gets the bill, I think we can agree, is kind of in a potentially tough position.
Mm-hmm. So they're going to avoid being part of the, let's figure out how to split this
up. Yeah. And I'm also going to guess that in favor of preserving relationship, the 2 is going to agree to whatever plan comes out from the rest of the group.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not 100% true, but I think it's more likely because, again, the focus is on preserving the connections and the relationships. You might even get a 2 who offers, once a plan comes up, to put in more than their share if they determine that that's what's required, or if somebody else is more in need.
I was wondering if the 2 just might offer to pay it.
I think that would be an extreme, but it's not 100% out of the question. It would depend. Now, if the 2 offered to pay it, again, it's to preserve the relationship and make clear how generous they are and how giving they are. The 3 sitting right next to them might offer to pay it to prove that it's no big deal and they have plenty of money, so they don't care. And that's a status, money status, as we've been talking about in our other episodes. Or could be really concerned if they saw the size of the bill and didn't feel up to either their share or taking on the whole. Could be very embarrassing. Don't forget, we're on image here to preserve relationship. The 4 sitting next to the 3, I'm making this a circle just because it's easier for me to, so I don't drop anything. The 4 could get prickly about it. I don't know that the 4 is going to volunteer to be the person who runs this discussion or does the financial calculation, again, unless that's their expertise. But 4s sometimes, because their attention is focused internally, can get very particular. And you sometimes see a little bit of pickiness. It might not be the I only had, so I should pay less, but it might be, well, my whatever didn't come out right, and I think we should complain about it. Or let's think about this tip because I'm not sure about the quality of the service, or something like that. What's in my mind, Rick, is that very often the 4 pattern and the habit of seeing what's missing looks like dissatisfaction. That comes out of the narratives. You also sometimes, and again, I hate caricatures, you also sometimes see 4s who have very, very elaborate requirements in their ordering. You know, the joke about the coffee that has to be half this and half that, and 1 spoon of this milk and all of that stuff. If we were caricaturing, I might put that on the 4. I might put it on the 7 because they didn't want to miss anything. But again, we'll make a joke out of it. But it's because of this habit of seeing what's lacking.
I melt down to a 4 a lot when it comes to food. I'm saying.
Well, I had dinner with you. You're not particularly picky, though. Maybe you just keep it quiet.
I must about complaining about the quality and
the quality. Well, that's different.
And we're going to send this back. Oh my, yeah. I had a question on the 3. Would the 3 jump into the fray on trying to figure out the bill? They might,
because the 3 is always good at tasks and organization and efficiency. So they might, that's a good point. They might very well jump in to do it quickly. Even though, let's say, we have 2 accountants at the table. So yeah, we're expanding to some of the other traits of the types.
I like the emphasis on quickly, because what comes to mind there is, okay, let's just split it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And to your point that some folks ordered $50 worth of stuff and other folks ordered $150 worth of stuff. And the three to get in, let's get it done.
Yeah. Get in, get out. It's efficient, and we'll on to the next. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I can do a differential to my 9-ness where I will be seething that I ordered $45 worth and somebody had 6 drinks and it was $150. But I'm never going to, I'm trying to learn. But in the past, I would never say anything because it might upset the harmony.
Yep. I can.
And I don't drink, so my bill is usually less. Yeah. All right. So we did the 2, 3, 4, and we've got the focus on bonding, and we've got a little bit of the patterning of what's important to them built in. So let's go to 5, 6, and 7. The 5 might take the bill and do the accounting, but I think only if asked, because they don't like to be in the spotlight. And they don't like to insert themselves too much. Plus, if it's been a long evening of dinner, they might be done and ready to go and have some private time. Don't forget that for 5s, time and energy are very high priorities. They really value that. So generally the 5 will have decided in advance how much time and energy they were going to devote to this dinner, and they might be ready to go. 6s will very often be the one who takes the bill and does the math.
All right.
I think because 6s and 1s, and this is a similarity between them, I think because they like things to be precise, they like things to be certain, and they like things to be fair if you happen to be a 6.
Mm-hmm.
So you could get what you suggested before, let me look at this. What do you think if we split it equally? Or from a 6, you might get, we could split it equally, or we could separate the drinks from the bill and handle that differently, because that might be more fair, because fairness is a big deal there. This would also be different depending on whether this individual 6 is more of the phobic variety, which is the let's get away from anything dangerous, or the counterphobic variety of I'm going to get at it before it gets me. So there's a differential there. But I do think that fairness would play a piece, and they would also want to see the bill to make sure that there were no mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Again, similar to a 1.
They'll do a complete audit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did this server do it right? 6s have a view screen that sometimes looks for negative motives that aren't there. And if they got a negative feeling from the server, they're going to be really particular about checking that bill. Again, it's looking for certainty, looking for a situation where nothing can go wrong. The 7 could offer to pick up the whole tab, depending on how they're feeling and depending on whether they had a good time at the dinner or not. Again, this is an internally focused type, as opposed to, this is an externally focused type, always looking for the next fun thing, but is also very attuned to whether or not they enjoyed themselves.
That's a great point.
Okay. So I think they also, 7s have a streak of fairness like 6s. So they might go along with a suggestion to split it up. Or if it's a particularly self-centered 7, they're the person who ate 3 times as much as everybody else and doesn't notice that they did. Where am I? Oh, I'm at the 8. 8s very often try to pick up the check. My brothers and I used to have to fight with my father, even when he was in his 90s, because his knee jerk was to grab the check. And it was a point of honor among his children if you could get it before he did. I think that's something about being protective, which is a high priority to an 8. And so if it wasn't his children at the table, maybe they wouldn't do it. But if it was the team from the office or something like that, they might very well. 8s are very unlikely to care about who ate what or anything, those kind of specifics. That, I think, is most likely because they move so fast, both in thinking and in action. And they like the feeling of moving fast. So you don't want to really interrupt it. And that's not to say that we don't get an instinctual self-pres 8 occasionally who is specific. But I'm trying to generalize here.
So the 8 and the 3 could have some similarities here in moving.
Very similar for different reasons, exactly. Could look the same.
Let's just split it up. The 3's like, that's totally.
Yeah, let's just do it. Yep, let's do it.
In the corner are the 6s and 9s, and maybe the 1 going internally ballistic.
Exactly. Yeah. You won't see it in the 9. Like I said, I'll be seething because I ate half of what everybody else did, but I would never say. Not anymore so much, I hope. It was a growth edge to be able, you said before that you'll send food back. I don't think I could do that until maybe 10 years ago. I wouldn't have dared. I wouldn't have dared because it might upset somebody else. You can't do that. Conflict. So the 9 at the table, let's see, if it's me, I will never, this is me, not 9. I will never take the check and offer to do the math because I am hopeless at math. I have a money script that says I'm terrible at math, or a script of some sort. Want it to get over with quickly so there's no conflict. And, we'll happily do what somebody else tells me on the outside, and could be very angry internally if it feels unfair. But you're not going to see it. It'll come out some other way.
Will the 9 then tend to go along with the group?
Oh, yeah. Go along to get along.
They could internally just be
ballistic. Yeah. Or could be completely oblivious that they're angry.
Sure.
It's also possible in 9 because anger can get numbed out so quickly that you don't notice that you're irritated. And again, using myself as an example, I had to learn that grumbling in my stomach was me being angry. I didn't know for a long time. And as you said before, I think our 1 might be with the 6, the person who took the bill and was making it fair and checking the math and trying to even it all out and counting the money and collecting it. And of course, if it was cash, which it usually isn't anymore, the 6 would be holding on to it to hand directly to the server so nobody would grab it off the table. The 1 wouldn't be concerned about that as long as the number was right. I told you I was going to make light of this, so I am.
That's great.
Yeah. I had a very close friend for many, many years who was a huge guy, very powerful. He was military and all that. Gentlest person I ever met. He was a counterphobic 6, and he would not put money down on the table or on a counter or anywhere. He had to hand it to the appropriate person and then release them. Yeah. It was a quirk of his, but he just wasn't going to trust. Fascinating.
I've
So
never
did we
thought.
get all the way around? I got
Yeah,
to the one. I
we
made
got
fun of you.
around, and I was thinking to myself in those situations. I remember famously we were on our honeymoon, and we were with a group of fairly moneyed people that we had run into. Went out for dessert at some famous place in London, and I was pinching my pennies, counting. I think we split. Marcia and I split a dessert, and they were ordering Armagnac, 65 Armagnac. They were just going for it. And I think she and I don't know if we had a glass of wine or what.
Maybe not. Yeah.
I think, and this was 30 years ago, $15. And they spent like $90 each. And the bill came, and immediately, let's just split it. And I was horrified. What? You are kidding me now. This was all internal.
Of
I
course.
said nothing. So my 9-wing definitely came up. We had a great time. We liked these people.
Right.
That would look cheap, and there would definitely be conflict.
I would be hiding under the table at that point, by the way. Not today, but back then. Yeah. No, it's so here's something we can say to round this out. Everybody is looking through their own pattern, and if it's different than yours, they're seeing what's in front of them differently. So that what feels like largesse to say, let's just split the bill, is being seen differently through 9 different view screens, complicated by 9 individual histories. I think what I want to do is I am the one who always says, let's split it, whether I'm angry or not. And I think I want to set for myself the idea that I don't do that anymore, because if I don't care, maybe somebody else does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And why make them uncomfortable? Plus, as I said at the beginning, it doesn't usually happen anymore because they have those machines and, they can.
What I find myself doing is so today when I go out in a group, I'm very vigilant. I know what everybody is ordering. And so I will keep up. If I think this is going to be a let's just split it decision, I'll make sure that I'm matching the norm.
It's your 9-wing again, Rick.
So then
with a little bit of a 1 focus on the details that 9s don't have. Yeah.
In other occasions, if I'm really aware of the disparity of what people ordered, I would say, now would you bring us individual tickets? Mm-hmm. Split this up because this isn't fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You just,
I'm thinking, what's the takeaway of all this? And for me, the takeaway is let's decide first.
I think that's wise. It takes it off the table. Nobody worries. I was recently traveling with a group, which I don't normally do. And we were a small group within a larger group. And I learned that that's what you do. At the very beginning, can we have separate bills? And even if the server says no, at least you've set it up that people can have their own individual views, and it isn't just, we're going to split. And then people are happier. But it's that thing about looking at the same situation through different eyes that just keeps getting me.
Yeah, I think sometimes when I'm really clear I'd like to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than say that, now I just went out 2 days ago and there was 3 of us, and I I think she's a type 8. She made it clear before we got to the restaurant she was buying.
Yeah, that was how my dad always was. Yeah.
But there's always that drama of you get down, here's the bill, and now you have two people, maybe the 3 or the 8, sometimes the 1.
Yeah.
Over it. No, one bite.
Yeah.
Bite.
Yep.
And there's probably some needs being met in just being part of the fight. Maybe not
That's
hoping
right.
that you win.
That's exactly right. I think you got it spot on. Yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe the 3 would like to be part of the fight, saying, yeah, I'll pay for it, and hoping that the 8 really takes over and does pay for it.
Oh, yeah. And usually they will because they're oblivious. It is so much fun to talk to you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This is great. I don't think I've ever done, well, I know I've never done a podcast on who pays the bill, and I've never parsed it this deeply. So there's definitely a column that's going to be coming out of this too.
Oh, good. All right.
Tell people where they can contact you, just some of your resources. I know you have
Sure.
words.
The website is creativecollaborations.net with an S on collaborations. That's the primary place. You can often hear me, for IFS folks, you can often hear me with my co-teacher, Tammy Solenberger, on her podcast, The One Inside. And you can put my email in the show notes. Anybody who's interested. If you go to the website, there's a pop-up to get on my email list, and then there's a list of the classes that we just finished a round. So the next class will start in the end of January. We do small classes, trying to do depth work. You don't have to know your Enneagram pattern, but if you don't, usually I ask that you do an interview with me first to get an idea of what it is. And it's, for the last 6 years, it's been all about IFS and the Enneagram. And now it's the overlay of personality and wholeness and therapy on all of that.
And you have some cards you developed.
I do.
Kind of helps you determine what your Enneagram type is.
I do. And because we're on this podcast, if you're interested in that, you can email me directly. Tell me that you heard about it on this podcast, and there's a discount.
Wow.
One caveat on the cards is that because of the cost of shipping, I cannot send them outside of the country. It's just prohibitive, even to Canada. And that comes up sometimes. And I am hoping to have a digital version one of these days, but I don't think it's going to be fast.
Yeah. Well, I'll attest to the cards. I've done them many times. And in fact, I took a class from Joan, I don't know, 15 years ago or so.
Long time ago. Yeah.
And got the cards then. And then when we reconnected several years ago, didn't realize that it was Joan I was reconnecting with until the cards came out. I'm like, wait a minute, I got these cards.
I know this, yeah.
Yeah, and they're great. They're great cards.
Those came out of a frustration that I had. I used to do a lot of interviews to help people find their type or their pattern. I still will do them, but not as frequently. And I always felt like I wanted to send them away with something that they could continue to work with that wasn't a book. That was, I guess I like things that you can play with, and I like things that have moving parts. And it came out of that, and it's proved very useful to a lot of people. Because what's underneath all of this, whether it's my work or your financial therapy or your financial planning, it's all about how clearly can we see ourselves so that we can make good choices. And we can make choices that are basically as free of habit and pattern and negative protectors or out-of-date protectors as we possibly can. self-led decisions, I guess is what I'm
Yes.
saying.
Self-led. Well,
Self-
Joan, thank you so much. This has just been a treat, and I know it's been a treat for anybody that's been listening.
Well, it's way fun for me. I always love talking to you.
Thank you so much.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for joining me, Rick Kahler, for another episode of Financial Therapy. It's not just about the money. This is where I combine the nuts and bolts of financial advice with the emotions that drive making them. Remember, every financial behavior, whether it appears illogical to you or others, makes perfect sense when we understand the underlying beliefs, feelings, and thoughts. Sign up for my weekly blog at financialawakenings.com. I hope you'll join me again for our next episode.